In podcast, I should say the brand new inaugural All In podcast. Geoff Mosher here alongside Ryan Rothstein, Michael Gill. What's going on, everybody?
What's up, man?
You excited for this,
My
Mike?
mother calls me Michael.
Well, I'm going to call you Michael too, because I'm going to be your mother for this entire
Wow.
podcast. I will own you on all these gambling and fantasy picks. No, we're glad to have everyone with us. It's a new podcast where we're basically going to talk about A, gambling, B, fantasy sports, and give really good advice, tips, talk about certain trends that we find throughout the weekend. We're also going to play some fun games, and as we get into the NFL season, this thing is going to get real cooking. I wanted to start off with a couple of gambling things that I've seen in the news lately. And the first thing that struck me was the Lakers being plus 350 to win the NBA title next year. And whether or not that's a good bet this early, before free agency has started, just knowing that they have Anthony Davis. So, Mike, I'll start with you. What do you think? Would you put money down right now on the Lakers at plus 350? You consider that good odds for them to win a title?
No, that's the best odds, right? So it's the
Right now you can get them at plus 350, right?
Right, which means it's the worst money you would get them at, right?
Well, it depends because
It depends where you
if
look.
they add another superstar, doesn't it go down to maybe plus 250 or plus 100?
Right, that's what I'm saying. So
might be the best it'll ever be.
right, might be the best it'll ever be if you look at it like that. Like if you think they're going to add another player, then you probably want to jump at the plus 350, which is odd because on most books they are the betting favorite to win the championship next year as currently constructed with like 4 players. So if you in your heart of hearts think they're going to add another superstar level player, I would jump at the plus 350. I personally don't think they're going to. So it's not a bet that I would probably throw money on unless you're somebody out there that says they got LeBron, they got Anthony Davis, they got Kuzma, who's a pretty good player.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And they can get, I don't know, let's say Kyrie or Kawhi ends up going there. I don't know how they would get Kawhi with this whole cap thing with the Lakers. They got to figure this out because it's either 23 million or 30 plus million, and they are two way different numbers.
So that makes me think this. To almost counter what you say, if the Lakers do not add, first of all, they've got like bookkeeping problems right now, right? They have to rely on the Pelicans agreeing to this trade in a certain way to get more money. If they're crazy,
Well,
they're a big mess.
Palinka pulled a Palinka. He forgot about the whole cap thing.
Of course,
Like minor
he's too busy
detail.
doing his next acting movie, like
Right.
just filling in for Rob Lowe.
Too busy applying more makeup on his face. So I don't know.
So couldn't you theoretically say that if the Lakers have this money, not as much as you thought, and don't get a significantly better player than we've got now, and say Kawhi goes somewhere, like their number will go higher. They could be, a month from now, they could be plus 700 to win an NBA title because they didn't make good moves.
Yeah,
but
but
does
keep
that make
in
them
mind,
a good bet?
keep in mind, Vegas puts out these numbers to try to generate money. They know that there's Laker fans all across the country, so they're trying to give you a number to get action on that. Like the Sixers were constantly in the betting for LeBron James because Vegas knows people from Philly will throw their money down. That's why he was always such a high odd to go to Philadelphia last year.
But on the flip side of that, Mike, Vegas knows that the Lakers are a very attractive, popular bet, especially a prop future bet like this. So if Vegas has any type of inside information and they have a hunch that they're going to land a third star, then this 350 might not be true. Like it could really be
There's no way that they are
500.
the best team right now.
No, but if there's a lot of money coming into the books,
Right.
then they're going to try and limit their risk. So they might have it at plus 350 because they know in their heads, if we really had it at plus 450, 500 where it should be, we could get hit harder if they somehow actually do win the title.
I think now is the time to jump on the line because if they do bring in another Super Bowl, if it's Kawhi, if it's just a really good free agent, that number is going to come down. You're not going to be able to get plus 350. If they do bring in another, right?
Yeah.
Obviously the number comes down. If they don't, though, if they just spend it on bench players or role players, I'm not going to consider them a really good shot to win the NBA title. Granted, it's open this year with obviously the Warriors losing KD and Clay probably for the year. It's going to be anybody's game. But I'm still thinking that wherever Kawhi's going to go, they're going to be the favorite.
Sure. And one question for you guys before we possibly move on, Jeff, is sleeper picks for who could win the title in 2020.
Hey man, I got the script. I was gonna.
I know. I'm sorry, but listen, I'm excited here. It's the first one.
All right, I'll
Nets,
allow you this
no,
time.
just the Nets plus 4,200. I think that's interesting. Like, you hear talks of Kyrie, KD, and maybe Tobias, as Sixers fans cringe, but that's the type of number when you go down the list of teams to win the title next year where you have really good potential value.
Well, I would say this, and Mike has talked about it. I don't know if the Nets would be my first choice as that sleeper team with a really good odds, but maybe Utah after getting Mike Conley. Or what about, now you're not going to get great odds in comparison to, say, the Nets, but I don't know what Denver's at, but aren't they getting Michael Porter Jr.?
Yeah.
Denver's at plus 1,900.
Yeah. That's
I
pretty
like
good
those
to
odds.
get Michael Porter Jr. back, assuming he's any bit decent. That's the kind of player that they were.
You got Bol too, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, you're getting a guy who some people thought would have been a top 5 pick in this year's draft, with a guy last year who may have been the top pick in the draft had he not got hurt. That's 2 impactful players. Plus, I would imagine they have something up their sleeve this offseason. They're not going to come back exactly as is. But by the way, they were the number 2 seed in the West, which nothing to sneeze at, and this West is going to be upside down this year.
That would be my team. That would be where I would
Denver.
jump, where I'd say the Nets are just too unrealistic. It's not, to me, it's not possible that they win an NBA title. So you're throwing your money away, even if you're taking this long shot that they might get even Kyrie. But Denver is that middle team where they're still not, you're not getting the most unbelievable odds ever, but that's still a long shot enough to make some money because they were there and they were one player away.
Very true. Yeah, it's tough. When we talk about this, it's like your heart wants to say, all right, who's a realistic shot? But when you have money involved, it's, okay, what's the best value that I can get today, June 24th?
Absolutely.
Like you're trying to balance that line.
All right, let's keep it with the NBA and talk about Rookie of the Year. Zion Williamson right now, I forget where I saw it. Maybe you can bring it up, Ryan. But he was minus 450 to win NBA Rookie of the Year. All right, so it's not a great bet. Everybody thinks he's going to win Rookie of the Year. It's a great bet if he does. I mean, you lay a lot of money down, you can make something on it, unless you have a situation where you can take Zion versus the field, or do you think that there's anybody that can actually sneak in and have a better year? It's going to be so tough because even if John Morant has a really good year, Zion's probably going to have a really good year.
Yeah, he has to have a better year.
Zion already has the media, the charisma, the hype, and everything. You almost have to do as well as Zion did, and then even a little bit more. You got to set some kind of record that nobody has set, to win this thing. So is it better to just take Zion versus the field? Or do you think there's somebody who can give him a good rivalry for it?
Once again, when you're talking about money and you're talking about placing bets, which is what we're doing here, minus 450 for me is horrible.
Yeah.
And I'm a Zion guy, as you guys know. I think I'm more of a Zion guy than you two are, but I'm not going to lay those odds, minus 450. I'd rather take the field. Like, I want value for my bets. And Zion, who knows what's going to happen? He could get injured. He could have a good year, but there could be a sleeper somewhere. So for minus 450 for me, I'm not jumping at those odds.
Mike, field or just stay away altogether?
No, I'm going field because, I mean, I agree. Minus 450. I mean, you got to put in a ridiculous amount of money to get anything gratifying back. It's just not. There's no value with Zion. And look, I think he's in a spot where the transition from his game to from the college game to the NBA game, I'm not saying he's a bust by any stretch of the imagination. I just don't think he's going to transcend and change the game and be some 25-point-a-game scorer. I mean, I could be wrong. I see him more in that 16 to 18-point range, and I think a kid like John Morant can come in, score 22, 23, I mean, something like that. So R.J. Barrett, who's going to be the sole player.
So if I put a gun to your head and you wanted to make money,
take it easy.
You would take the. Well, I mean, this is this is what we do. If I put a gun to your head, gambling is not a very clean thing here.
No, it's not. No, it's not.
If I put a gun to your head and said you need to put your money somewhere, you would try to make money off the field versus Zion, the easy.
No question. Yeah, and I think there's good. By the way, Michael Porter Jr. is a guy who is going to be part of this field, right?
On a really good team. Right?
Yes, he's going to be on a good team.
Kind of Ben Simmons-ish, where he missed his first year, but he comes back to a good team.
You got R.J. Barrett, who, if they don't, and let's say they sign Durant and don't sign anybody else, and they kind of go into the tank again. Now you have R.J. Barrett essentially being the lead scorer on a really bad team, which Michael Carter-Williams won a Rookie of the Year in that fashion, where he just scored a lot of points and did a lot for the Sixers. So I like the field in that bet. I think minus 450. You're not getting any return there.
All right.
Yeah, just to throw a couple quick ones out there for the listeners. You have Garland, ex-Vanderbilt point guard at 10-1. DeAndre Hunter at 12-1, and the former Texas Tech forward Jarrett Culver at 15-1.
Yeah.
So those are odds that I look at, and I'm like, much better than minus 450.
But I look at it as throwing your money away because I don't think any of them have a shot. I'd rather take Zion than go with one. I'll maybe take the field, but I'd rather take Zion and definitely make a little bit of money than throw my money away on people I think zero shot at winning this.
See, and that's interesting, and this is a whole nother conversation, maybe for another time on a different episode for us. But once again, you're looking at value. Like when you're placing these future bets, it's not about who's going to win the baseball game tonight.
Sure.
Like you want it. You want the value. You want the odds, and you want maybe something that's all right. This is unrealistic, but as we all know in sports, anything can happen. So if you get Culver at 15-1. He's a sleeper. Who knows what happens?
Fair enough. Let me clarify this because I put Mike in a box and said if I put a gun to your head, you take Zion in the field. I didn't introduce the third option, which is to me the one I would take, and that's just skip it altogether. I'm not going to make money on the field, right? Because I don't think anybody from the field's going to win. I'm not going to make money on Zion because the odds just aren't that great.
Yeah.
Unless I got $2 million and I want to try to add a couple $100,000 or $1 million on top of that. I'm just average Joe who likes to gamble, so I'm just staying away from it altogether.
Yeah, that's also a good option.
All right. Give me a bet this week that both of you guys like. Anything. Just give me any bet this week that you looked up and you thought, man, I like that. Mike?
There's a couple. One would be John Jones winning. Right now in the MMA world, he is probably, and I don't remember what his odds are, but in preparation for doing this, I was looking at John Jones fighting at UFC. Now that's the 6th. That's in 2 weeks from now.
Okay.
But that was one of the things I was looking at here because the MMA is one of those betting things that people don't really think about. It's like, because they only happen once every so often where these big cards are out there. But John Jones losing in the MMA world is almost like Floyd Mayweather losing in boxing. So, and you can get decent odds when he fights because, it's not like Zion winning the Rookie of the Year. It's not like minus 450. I got to get the updated odds on that, but and that's in 2 weeks. So I'll start with that.
Okay.
But the other thing is, I would take odds if you can find them on the first manager to be fired.
Oh, that's good.
And it's funny because we're recording this on a Monday when Mickey Callaway is going up against Gabe Kapler. And if somebody gets swept in this series, don't be surprised if one of these two guys. So I would put money on both of those guys.
I've actually dubbed this series, this Mets-Phillies series coming up, as the Joe Girardi sweepstakes series.
Well,
I dub it as the series to win, though.
I dub it as whose computer is going to catch fire first here. Which manager's laptop is going to run out of answers first. And if you can find odds somewhere of the first Major League manager fired, it might happen this week. And I would put money on both of those guys because you could probably get decent enough money return if you pick, hey, this is going to happen. Because I'm sure there's places out there that have dates or who the first manager fired might be. So those are two there. And I would probably go with the Mets winning this series because that's how bad it is for the Phillies.
Brian, give me a bet.
Wow, you like the Mets for the series.
Dude, you got Nola pitching on Thursday, which means there's 3 games before that to get to Nola. Anybody other than, and he's not even a guarantee. And the way they've lost 7 straight. The Mets have not been that bad. They had gotten to a fight with the reporter, but they haven't lost 7 straight bad.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Yeah.
What do you got?
I have a couple things specifically for today. I actually don't hate the Phillies against the Mets.
Okay.
They're losers of 6 straight. You have the Mets who are awful, despite the Phillies just playing an awful team and not being able to get 1 game. But I do like the Phillies run line today, and I also like the White Sox-Red Sox over. That's listed at 9. I think both of them, we know they both can swing the bat. And I don't think the Red Sox are going to go down without a fight in this game. I like the White Sox to win the game, but I like it 7-5, 6-4 type of final score. So I like the White Sox and Red Sox, 2 heavy bats to go over.
All right, I like it. The advice of Ryan Rothstein.
Yeah, we'll see if that pays out.
Yeah. Hey, listen, you're doing a lot better than me lately on baseball, I'll tell you that. All right, I want to transition over to fantasy football and basketball, just fantasy sports altogether. We were talking about baseball, and we're coming up about a month on the trade deadline. But I notice in fantasy sports, people start to, about 2 months in is when they start to really kind of make their moves. I made a few trades in my leagues. I don't know about you guys, but I'm asking you both, and I'll contribute to one player that you would sell high right now. Somebody having a great year, you don't think this is going to continue in the second half, so you're trying to get the maximum value for him right now. I'll start with you, Ryan.
I like Justin Verlander to possibly sell high in a trade.
One.
Yeah, I think he's someone that if you need a couple bats, he's a big name, and he's someone that's pitching well. If you need to make a trade, I like Verlander's value right now to sell high. Mm-hmm. So that I'm just keeping it short and simple.
I'm just curious, really, though, because he's obviously a very good pitcher, and he seems to have found the fountain of youth in Houston for the last few years. Why him?
I just think,
don't see him keeping it up.
I don't know if he can, sustain it. And he is a big name. He's a flashy name. So when you throw his name around, he is the top fantasy starter for a while this year.
You get a lot of value.
So you're getting a ton of value. And if you have maybe a couple other pitchers on your roster, depending on the other starters that you have, you can be able to fulfill what he brings to your team and really get a couple bats or utility guys in your lineup.
Certainly, if you're in a keeper league, the guy's 36 years old, you're probably not going to keep him too much. But
right.
Yeah, 10-3, 2.67 ERA, leading the majors in innings at 114 and 2/3. That is for a guy of his age, leading the major leagues in WHIP, in hits per 9. I can see that. I can see it not continue. I think there are some other guys I might try to sell high more on, but that's not a bad one, especially for keepers. Mike?
How about Luke Voit in the Yankees lineup? Because he's 266, 17 homers, 46 ribbies, but they went out and got Encarnacion, but they've got all sorts of reinforcements. He was only really getting everyday playing time because so many guys were hurt, and now he might be splitting time, so I don't know that he's going to get the regular plate appearances that he was getting. In my league, he's 61st ranked overall, and I think that might change. He came in being projected as the 156th player. He probably falls more into that range. I got young guys like Voit and Pete Alonso, who's been unbelievable. I don't know that Alonso can keep. I mean, he's got 276, 27 homers, 61 RBI. I mean, he's another guy that he had an unbelievable first half, but can he keep that going? So that's somebody that and
the only thing is, if you're in a keeper, though, you're not getting rid of Pete Alonso at all.
No, and also another guy who you might want to call about is Mookie Betts. I mean, he was the number 2 pick in a lot of drafts and has not been. So you might be able to get.
That's more of a sell, buy low.
Correct. I'm saying if somebody is trying to move him, he might be a guy that you might want to make a call for. But some of these young players, Voit, Alonso, they might be guys that you got the most out of in the first half. We're hitting 4th of July, which is the dog days of summer. Some of these guys might run out of gas.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. That and usually that's pitchers, right? I mean, pitchers are the ones who have the biggest variance. So that's why for me, Jake Odorizzi, who right now is 26th overall, I would be looking to move him as soon as. Now, he's on Minnesota. They're a great team. They're probably going to make the playoffs. They play in a nice ballpark. It's not so hitter crazy, and he's got a great lineup around him. So he's going to have wins. But look what he's doing right now. He's got 10 wins already, a 2.58 ERA, a 107 WHIP, 26 overall. I guarantee you this guy is not finishing in the top 30 or even top 40 in most leagues. And he's not young enough so you say, well, maybe he found the fountain of youth and we'll go and have him for a keeper league. So, I mean, he's not old, but he ain't that young either. So I would get rid of him if I could get a few prospects or a few 2 or 3 player haul to improve my team. All right, so that was good. I like that. You guys had some good ones on there. Let's move on to this one. A little NFL talk, fellas, because we can't get on that. This is one of my favorite topics because I think it's really interesting. Because it involves you not only giving me a player that you're going to take, but then one you're going to take out. All right? I want the NFL running back that you think could crack the top 5 this year. And then to do that, you got to say who is your replace. So I'll give you the top 5 last year. And they're pretty much the same names. They're in different orders based on PPR or standard. But it's Saquon Barkley, Todd Gurley, Christian McCaffrey, Alvin Kamara, Ezekiel Elliott. Those are. It's hard to take somebody out of there.
Yeah.
Those are pretty good. And lately the reports are that Gurley's knee is looking a lot better, and they're going to figure out ways to, give him, whether it's blood or regenerative stuff to keep him healthy. But is there anyone that strikes you as a guy that you think will crack the top 5, and then you'll have to take somebody out? Mike, start with you.
Trying to figure out which one of these guys is going to come out is the hard one.
That is the tough one.
Yeah. If I'm putting a guy in, all right, I have 2 kind of dark horse names for him. It's just getting somebody out that is kind of giving me a little bit of a problem here. But the one guy that I could possibly put in there would be Tariq Cohen. No Howard, and Howard, didn't have a huge role, but he took about, 150 plus touches. Those could go to Cohen, and I think if they do, they're going to be in the receiving game.
He can become McCaffrey.
Right. If you get a PPR, Cohen could be that guy. So McCaffrey would be the guy that I would probably pull out, and Cohen would be the guy because he has really nobody else. I mean, I don't know if he's going to get a lot of carries, but I think he gets more touches in the passing game. So he would be the guy. I mean, Mike Davis is there, right, as the goal line vulture.
Yeah, Mike
back
Davis
kinda.
guy, yeah.
So that would be Cohen would be one. The other guy would be, and I know this is kind of like.
Yeah, I tell this guy to pick one, and he's.
Sorry, you want me to? I'll give you one. All right, you can give one. Yeah.
You sure?
Yeah, because you might trample on one of ours if you add another.
I hope he doesn't have the reach that I'm about to pull, but if you want to give the name, go for it.
No. I want your name.
Okay, fine. So I'm going on a complete limb here, but Darwin Thompson. Drafted.
You're
That's
kicked
not
out
mine.
of this podcast.
No. Listen, man. He's
Top 5?
Kansas City offense, Andy Reid offense. Who do they have running back wise there?
Well, the kid who took over for
Damian Williams. He was the
good.
guy that I
That
was
would've been the
talking
guy,
about
yeah.
as my other guy was Damian Williams.
Okay.
So Damian Williams has never been a full-time starter in the NFL, and Hyde has been with 3 teams in the past 2 seasons, and that's for a reason. He's certainly not a star. You have Thompson. He's got over 1,000 yards last year with Utah State. He catches the ball out of the backfield, 400 yards out of the backfield receiving. He put up a lot of numbers. It's a sleeper and it's a reach, but we've seen these guys come on, and we know Andy Reid loves those backs that can catch out of the backfield and guys that really no one's had an eye on.
All right.
So it's a reach, but I think if he gets going early for Andy Reid in Kansas City, he could jump up there, at least for maybe the first 6 to 10 weeks of the NFL season.
All right. You see what's going on here, Mike? The reason why somebody like Ryan would say Darwin Thompson when we're talking about top 5 fantasy running backs is because by November of this season, no one's going to remember that Ryan said Darwin Thompson could put you in the top 5. But
unless
if
he
does it, everybody is going to say, hey, didn't Ryan Ross do that?
Right.
That was such a nothing to lose type of suggestion. You're kicked out of any
Oh,
no,
come
I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
Not yet.
The guy for me is Joe Mixon from the Bengals. First of all, he had a really good year last year. I think he was 8th or 9th in fantasy points. Secondly, they brought in a new coach, Zach Taylor, and he's basically coming from the Sean McVay tree. And not only that, he's coming from Tennessee, where he was the offensive coordinator for what's the coach down in Tennessee? The guy from the Patriots, Vrabel, right?
Yeah.
And so that was a committee there too, but they were able to get their running game going to kind of masquerade the fact that Mariota is not top 5. So what I think he's going to do is he's going to treat Mixon like McVay treated Todd Gurley, saying, look, I've got a quarterback here in Andy Dalton who's limited, but I have a great running back. I've got good wide receivers in Tyler Boyd, and, of course, A.J. Green coming back from an injury. And I'm going to ride this guy. I'm going to run him outside. I'm going to run him inside. I'm going to throw him the ball. And I'm going to basically recreate that offense you're seeing in L.A. here in Cincinnati and try to take the ball out of Andy Dalton's hands a little bit and put it more in Joe Mixon. So I could see Mixon. Now, who would he replace? I think he could have the type of year running and catching the ball that would probably put him ahead of even Ezekiel Elliott. The Cowboys have upgraded. They've got better weapons around Zeke. I think Zeke will always be good, but you always wonder about whether he's going to get suspended. Injury could set in at any time. I just think Mixon right now is ready to come into his own and be a top 5 running back with this head coach in place and with the emphasis on him in the offense. All right. One thing I'm going to tell everybody, this is obviously our first inaugural podcast, the All In Podcast. Geoff Mosher, Ryan Rothstein, Mike Gill. What we're going to do is do a segment every week. It's kind of like a game, right? Where I pick a sporting event, and our cap is $5.
Okay.
It's not much, but it's really more about seeing what we can do with it than how much we're spending, right? And we're going to put $5 on one sporting event of any category of your choice. Mike, you could bet over/under. Ryan, you could do a parlay of home team and away. Okay. I could just do a prop bet or whatever. There's a billion different odds that are available to you. For $5, whoever can maximize that $5 the most will win that week. And we'll keep track of who wins on a weekly basis. And if we all lose, whoever lost the least will be considered the winner that week. So do you guys like that? Is that
Love
good?
it. Yeah, man.
All right, for this week, I've picked Wednesday's Mets-Phillies game. All right, the June 26th Wednesday's game, Nick Pivetta for the Phillies, Jason Vargas for the Mets. You have $5 to bet on anything in that game and make the most amount of money, and whoever makes the most win. All right?
Okay.
So when we do the podcast next week, we're going to come back and you're going to show me, you're going to either print out or show me on your phone the bet that you placed, and we'll see who won, and we'll.
Am I locking this bet in right now?
You don't have to do it right now. You got to do research. You got to figure it out.
So this is only
You
from.
may want to see how the first two games of the series play out.
Right.
Yeah,
So Mets Phillies, it has to be from the Wednesday game.
$5 on that Wednesday game in any category of that game that you choose, and whoever maximizes that $5. If you make $8. Right, if you win, your payout's $8. I win, my payout's $8.02. I beat you.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. If we all lose, whoever lost the least wins.
that could be a trend.
All right, great. I hope everybody enjoyed the inaugural All In podcast. Mike Gill, Ryan Rothstein. I'm Geoff Mosher. You can find us on Twitter. Give us your Twitter.
Yeah, Twitter, Ryan973 ESPN.
Mike Gill is on Twitter at Mike Gill Show, and I'm at Geoff Mosher NFL. Look forward to talking to you all next week. Have a great one.